refreshing shopping experience with over 125 individual shops. Find what you're looking for at Mercantile at the Ridge, Ringgold Road, Exit 1, East Ridge.
You know the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, but sometimes that is easier said than done. But when it comes to helping you with your health, we're going to offer you not only some ideas, but a book you can get this morning that will perhaps help you with preventing and treating chronic diseases. Katrina Foe is the author of that book. It is a bestseller called Nutritional Pilates, and she joins us this morning. Nice to see you.
Hello.
So, I think a lot of us hear the word Pilates and our first thought goes towards getting that tummy under control and kind of getting a flatter stomach again. But the truth is, Pilates is so much more than that, and your book dives into it because it can be very beneficial for your overall health.
Yes, exactly. And I'm also a nutritionist as well as a Pilates teacher, so I'm melding in the diet component to really get a deep dive onto overall health.
Okay, so when you talk about the nutritional side of things, there's really no limit, is there, Katrina, to how deep you can go into that conversation? Because I think a lot of us who think we're eating well, if we really stopped and understood it more, realize we're not.
Yeah, it's very subjective nowadays, and everyone has different opinions. And the biggest takeaway that I want people to have is that it's really personal. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish in your body and what is going on specifically in your body, because a healthy food for one person may not be a healthy food for another. And that's where some specific testing and, looking into the symptoms that you have going on can really give you some light on what's going on for you.
So if we're reading your book, Nutritional Pilates, are there some kind of guides in there to kind of ask yourself some Q&A to determine a few things?
Yes, and I also have there's only so much I can pack into a little small book. So I've got a whole bunch of resources that you can use the QR code to get to that dive into it at a whole nother level of looking at your symptoms, seeing what that tells you about your body and what's going on and where to focus on things first.
So I have conversations like this often enough that I'm kind of a little bit dangerous because I know some things that maybe I can rely on too quickly. But when you talk about chronic disease, is one of those chronic diseases inflammation?
I look at inflammation as kind of the base of all chronic disease, specifically blood sugar dysregulation and the inflammation it causes. But we're talking about things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, which is now actually called type 3 diabetes.
Really?
And that's all going to be fueled by that inflammation. Yeah.
Okay, so when we're looking at your book, when you're addressing those diseases that you just mentioned, are you attacking that, if you will, from a nutritional perspective, or is the Pilates also part of the treatment?
The Pilates is going to be helping with the inflammation. And with that, I'm talking not just like generic fitness-based Pilates, but therapeutic Pilates that's really looking at the muscle imbalances. That's where you're going to dive into getting that inflammation down. And, with things like cancer, it's all about getting the inflammation down to allow the body to start healing itself.
Okay, so if you're watching you this morning and perhaps you don't have a chronic disease, if you have your guidance, can you prevent them?
Yes, and that is the ideal reason that I wrote the book and what I'm so passionate about. I myself had a cancer journey, and if I knew then what I know now, this is what I would do. There's so many different things out there that are not even on the public's radar. Things like mold and hormone imbalances, the thyroid crazy dysfunction, that epidemic that's going on in America. And people aren't really looking at it appropriately, and they can have huge factors in terms of, the joint pain, the weight loss especially, and eventually preventing that chronic disease so that people don't have to go through what I went through.
So do you look at your journey now and almost see it as a blessing in a way because it taught you things that you otherwise wouldn't know?
100%.
Really?
Yeah, there's so many layers to my cancer journey. I am super grateful, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
So how do we get the book? This is fascinating, and I know you mentioned it's more than just the book because there are other resources that we can get from you too.
Absolutely. It's available on Amazon. There's a Kindle version, and the audiobook should be out soon. It's going to be coming out in bookstores later this year. And for your listeners, special now, limited time, if you go to nutritionalpilates.com, you can snag a free hard copy.
Okay.
So paperback delivered.
Before I let you run, when we're following your advice, is it very restrictive, or do you kind of ease your way into a new way of living?
It depends on what you need and where you are on your health scale of like how intense things are. So if you do have cancer, yeah, it needs to be pretty aggressive because you're turning the Titanic around. But if you just have a few pounds to lose, this gives you some tools as to what else could be blocking you from not being able to get those pounds off. So it's very bio-individual and gives the reader a lot of things to think about and look into further for themselves.
Well, you are delightful, and I'm so glad that your cancer journey ended the way it did. And then thank you for sharing all that you learned now with us. So great talking to you this morning.
Thank you. It's great being here.
Again, it's called Nutritional Pilates. There's the information on your screen. Here's to a healthy you.
It's the Rooms to Go